Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
More than 500,000 children across the UK are living in destitution, according to a report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. It defines destitution as being when a household cannot afford two or more essentials, such as shelter, food, heating and clothing. The north of England has some of the worst affected regions. Middlesbrough was named as the worst affected place, as our north of England correspondent Fiona Trott reports.
We've seen some deprivation, but not on this scale.
This small charity feeds around 300 people a week.
Gravy and turkeys.
Next one, please!
We're just seeing more and more coming every week. We would normally think of destitution as homeless people, people on the streets who haven't got heating, or at least, you know, at home they have got shelter, but some of them are wrapping up in blankets. When the heating goes off, that means that the children are cold. Hiya Matty, how's your course been going?
It's been good. I was a bit proud. I didn't tell people how much I was struggling. Tried to go to sleep, go under the covers, just tried to think about something else. This place saved my life.
Some toffee apples, okay.
Ah, thank you, Don. Gone without having my tea and dinner and breakfast so my two kids can eat.
On this estate, mums like Hazel have hard choices.
When I'm down to my last bit of credit, I go without heating and that, just so I know I can put the cooker on for my children.
Looking at this report, I feel appalled and I feel ashamed that we have allowed ourselves to get to a situation where millions of people are trapped in this degrading situation and feel they have no way out. At the beginning of COVID, the government took a bold, compassionate step. They boosted universal credit by £20. That has been an absolute lifeline for millions of people. It is vital that we don't whip that lifeline away in April.
In a statement, the government says it has raised the living wage, but is continuing to assess the situation.
Got you some groceries there.
Sarah brings home 2 wages and is looking for a 3rd job. We've had to change her name to protect her children's identity.
I get up in the morning and cry my eyes out, and then I shake it off because I have to get up and get on with it for the kids. A couple of times when I've had to go to the pawn shop, sometimes I've lost stuff, a phone, a ring, the TV, because I haven't got the money to go back and get it. It's for food shopping, gas or electric.
I'm trying to reach as many as I can, but I've no doubt that there will be some children who do not have a Christmas dinner and do not open a present.
It's just going to be just me and my 2 boys, just on our own for Christmas. But I have got a lot of friends and support in Middlesbrough.
Fiona Trott, BBC News.
Now, no food in the cupboard, no warm clothes in winter, not enough money to keep the heating on. It's a vision of life which should feel far removed from modern Britain, yet new research shows it's a reality for almost 2.5 million people. Figures from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation also show the number of children experiencing destitution has gone up 52% in the past 2 years. And they're warning the pandemic could drag millions more into the sort of poverty that renders people barely able to survive.
Creating Christmas for families who have next to nothing.
Err to the side of generous. That's all I'm going to say to you. Err to the side of generous. If we haven't got enough, we'll get more. I know we will.
It's presents and toys today, but by the 25th, Les and his team of volunteers in Harwich and Essex will have put together absolutely everything necessary for a perfect Christmas day for around 100 of the poorest families in the area.
We give everything they need for breakfast. And then for lunch, we give turkey, fresh vegetables, frozen vegetables, cranberry sauce, gravy, pigs in blankets, so that their Christmas dinner looks exactly the same as my Christmas dinner. Most of all, we also give them £20. And the reason we give £20 is because we've given them all this food. If they can't afford electricity or gas, then it's completely wasted.
The notion of destitution, that people can't even afford the basics like food, heat and light, is no surprise to Les.
Absolutely not. I've seen it with my own eyes, I'm afraid. Now, even today, we'll be taking beds to houses where children have not got a bed to sleep on. children sleeping on the floor. In 2020, in Britain today, there are children sleeping on the floor. That's wrong.
Next is the fridge freezer, isn't it?
Outside in the bitter cold are his guys.
People haven't got pots and pans to cook with. They haven't got beds for their children, things like that. It's ludicrous. Before I started doing this, I never realised how bad it was. But, you know, we see some real poverty.
Research published today by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation tracks destitution since 2015. It found around 2.4 million people experienced destitution last year. That's up 54%. 1 in 7 are in paid work, and families with children are increasingly likely to suffer. More than 500,000 children experienced destitution at some point in 2019. That's up 52% since 2017. As coronavirus enveloped the country, it's predicted the numbers of households experiencing destitution will double again this year. Jodie and Oliver are among the new destitute, here at the local Salvation Army, which they say literally saved them.
They fed my family and kept them warm, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. With 4 children under 11, desperation set in within days of the first lockdown. Oliver, who'd gone freelance as a spray painter 9 months earlier, was laid off. Not eligible for furlough or any of the government support schemes because his company hadn't been running long enough. They said they didn't qualify for universal credit either.
I had nothing. Not a penny.
Nothing, literally. In the click of fingers, it's gone. It's very scary. A very scary place to be, knowing that we've got to provide for these children and they need food, they need heat.
That word destitution, people do not think in Britain that there are families who've been in work who have fallen on such difficult times. But that has happened to you.
Yeah,
I mean, that is where you were.
You think, oh, I'm never going to be destitute. I'm never going to not be able to provide my family. And then just like that, in a click of fingers, we are. We were.
With everything, every safety net, so to speak, that was put out, that we fell through. It did feel like every avenue we tried to go down, we weren't getting anywhere. And we still not, to a certain degree.
Donated food and help with bills have kept them afloat. But with their debts mounting, a huge factor for many experiencing destitution, they now face bankruptcy. Their plans for the future in tatters.
We worked so hard to get where we were before the pandemic, and we saw the light at the end of the tunnel with the new me getting a career, getting married next year, going on holidays and stuff like that we'd not done before.
Even as far as buying our own house, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it was in the distant future, but it was there.
It was there, and now it's
not.
It's everything's sort of gone from our future.
The emergency food parcels the family have received here is just part of a huge network of support across the area being provided by both charities and individuals. The month before lockdown, the Salvation Army handed out 1 food parcel. Now it's almost 50 every month, and increasingly to families for whom destitution was something that happened to other people.
We've had families that are actually working. One part of the family have had to stop working. They suddenly can't survive. They're so embarrassed. It's so sad. I've had people crying down the phone, absolutely mortified that they've had to ask for help.
Brad Thompson is making his own food drop to a woman who's been flagged by the local community as someone who is in desperate need.
How are we doing, Carol? You all right? Where would you like the food, darling? Parcel should last you a few days or so. All right, if you need anything else, just give us a call, all right?
Carol Shanbrook's father died of cancer during lockdown. Her benefits, which went into a joint account, were frozen in probate. Exactly the sort of life event which can tip the already poor into destitution.
So just tell me how much money you had over that period and for how long?
£67 for 6 weeks. And that went on electric. And everything else been supplied by Brad.
£67 for 6 weeks?
Yeah, they brought us clothes, a coat. I didn't have a coat. And I didn't go out. I used to sit here with a cardigan on. I don't bake. I don't cook anymore. And I'm absolutely paranoid about checking the electric.
You've got this tiny heater?
Yeah.
And that's all you've got?
That's all I've got.
And poverty so extreme, She can't even afford to accept all the charity on offer.
Brad was going to get me a cooker, but I told him to give it to another family because I can't afford to use it.
And for Carol, perhaps most devastating, having to rely on the council to bury her beloved father.
It's very hurtful for me and for the children. You know, we didn't have dad flowers. We had a bouquet of flowers that he took with him.
When you look ahead to the future, how do you feel at the moment?
Sad for the children. You know, I miss buying the children presents.
And what about Christmas?
That's very bleak at the moment for us.
Yeah, very bleak.
I wish it wasn't Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, a government spokesperson told us making sure every child gets the best start in life is central to our efforts to level up opportunity across the country, which is why we have raised the living wage for all and boosted welfare support by billions, including £170 million to help families stay warm and well-fed over Christmas. Well, joining me now is Edward Davies, who's Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice, a think tank jointly founded by the Conservative former Work and Pensions Secretary, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith. Also with me is Helen Barnard, Director of the anti-poverty charity, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, which undertook the research in our report. Helen Barnard first. Destitution is poverty at its most basic. People unable to heat their homes, feed their children. People tend to think of it as to do with people who are homeless or have addiction problems. This report busts that myth, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, of course, there are people who are destitute in that situation, and we can and should do much more to prevent that. But actually, more than 4 in 5 people who are destitute are not homeless, don't have complex needs, don't have addiction. Actually, it's about people who are in paid work that's not good enough to give you a living, and people who are disabled, who have chronic health problems, and people for whom just the money is too little that they're getting, and it's eaten away even more by debt deductions and having to pay back advances. So it's not the very visible face that you might associate. It's people who are not visible, who are in cold, damp houses without enough food and often feeling like there's no way out, that they're hemmed in by hunger and anxiety.
Ed Davies, 2.4 million people destitute, more than 500,000 children. Do you consider this an indictment of Britain, a sign of failure?
I think this makes for some very tough reading, this report. And I think it's important to say as well, it's not the only report making this point. Even today, the Social Market Foundation produced something very similar on childhood hunger. And I think, we've done similar work during coronavirus on what is happening, because some of this data from a year ago, you can be pretty sure it's got worse during this year. I think there is an indictment here of successive governments. And it's not about what's going on today. It's about a lack of a really long-term vision on poverty. You think we got close to it. Theresa May would talk about burning injustices. You had the life chances agenda that never quite took off under David Cameron. You had a social justice outcomes framework that still sits in cobwebs on the DWP website, which came out under the coalition. But we've never quite put together this long-term strategy that says we've got a problem here.
But it's about political will then, isn't it?
There's certainly an element of that, yes. And I think we're going to be sitting here next year having the same conversation unless one government comes together and says, right, we need a long-term strategy here. Otherwise, we can have constant reports like this. We had Marcus Rashford a few weeks ago. We have these constant conversations, and yet there is no long-term strategy to get us out of this.
But Helen Barnard, people can't wait for a long-term strategy, can they? They need action now. In simple terms, what could be done right now?
So right now, tomorrow, the Chancellor could announce that he is keeping the extra £20 on universal credit, and he is extending that to people on the old-style legacy benefits, mainly disabled people and carers, who are the majority of this group who are destitute. And they could announce tomorrow that they will have a solution so you don't have to wait 5 weeks for your first universal credit payment and get into debt that you have to pay back after that. Now, there are various ways you can do that, but those are 2 things they could do straight away.
I mean, clearly we're going to have to pay the price of the pandemic, the cost of the pandemic. The government may well argue that they simply cannot afford to put more money into universal credit.
I mean, I think that there is something about, can we afford not to? Do we really think that soaring homelessness and destitution and the blight that makes on people's lives is worth it. And it's about what we value. You know, as a country, through this pandemic, we've seen that we believe in helping each other. We believe in protecting each other. That's what we saw down there at that church. It's our government needs to live up to our values, and that means protecting people from the degrading humiliation of asking strangers for toilet roll because you can't afford it.
Ed Davis, right now, universal credit is key. It was, of course, the brainchild of your former founder, Ian Duncan Smith. But so many people that we talk to for the last couple of years talk about that 5-week wait, the advance payments creating debt which in many cases dragging them under. Do you agree with Helen Barnard that something needs to be done about that 5-week wait, that these advance payments are creating debt, they're in the long term not helping?
So I think there's two sides to this. I think firstly on universal credit generally, I think it has actually been over the last year one of the few bright spots in this pandemic, and it's worth acknowledging that, simply because if we'd had the old system, we would have had about 3 million people snaking around every town and city in this country with the paper in their hand trying to get their benefits. This is actually, the DWP don't get the credit of carers or the NHS, but they have worked miracles over the last year.
Debt is a real problem because of that 5-week wait, isn't it?
Now, debt, I would say that is another issue. Yes, there are changes that can be made within the system. I think particularly on debt, we're finding that the repayment levels of debt within UC really impact how generous it is. So people don't come to us and say universal credit in itself isn't generous. They often come and say the level of debt means it is not generous enough. The level that I have to pay back every month means that I can't survive. And so looking at that element within it is really important.
And Helen Barnard, we see in the film there a huge network in this small place in Essex that we visited of charities and individuals. Is that the truth of this, that this is the future? Charities now doing stuff that isn't little extras, it is absolutely lifeline stuff.
I think that's our decision to take. Do we really want that to be the future? That whether you have food depends on if you're lucky enough to have a local vicar who's still got something left? Or do we say that actually we build systems in this country to support each other? One of those systems is social security, so we're going to make it work for people. And actually fundamental to this is actually listening to the people who have experience of the system. So many things like the 5-week wait. If universal credit had been designed with the people who were going to be using it, it would never have happened. Because for years people said, hang on a minute, when we get to universal credit, we haven't got savings, we haven't got help. So you need to design it with people, not do it to them.
Helen Barnard and Ed Davies, thanks both of you. Sorry we couldn't talk longer. Thank you.